So you want to tell your story or that of an ancestor, but you're struggling to get started. Perhaps you know a few key points about the ancestor or remember a few details about it and events in your life. Do you have enough to start telling stories? With Story Assist from Storied, that's all you need to start writing your stories with a few more keystrokes. Howdy, welcome to Write Your Family History. My name is Devin Noel Lee, and I love teaching you how to write your personal and ancestral family stories. How does Story Assist help us write faster? Story Assist is an AI technology that helps you write a rough draft of a story that you can revise later. All you need is 3 to 5 points as an outline to guide the story assistant. The outline items are not complete sentences. After entering those details into the Story Assist interface, within a few moments, you have a story based on those details. Chances are the story comes close to expanding your outline into a believable story about the event in your life, and Brandon will show you what I mean. But all you have to do next to prevent the story from being inaccurate or the same as everyone else's is to revise that story with more details. But you'll be amazed at what the Story Assist produces to get your creative juices flowing. Now that you know what Story Assist can do, let Brandon from Storied walk us through the entire process.
Well, I'm excited to show you Story Assist. So right here, I'm on my home feed. I'm going to hop over to Stories real quick, and you'll see some different stories that I've put together. And this is where you would go to actually interact with Story Assist. Come over here. I'm going to click Add a Story. And when I choose to add a story, I get this prompt or this pop-up that says, do you want to try Story Assist? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come over and it's going to give me some prompts that I have the chance to follow. I want to tell a happy story, and I'm going to actually capture a personal memory about me. And I want to tell a story about time that my mom and I made a Hershey Kiss piñata for my birthday. And so put that in as the title. And then I'm going to provide a few details here that are going to help kind of create this rough draft from Story Assist. First, I'm going to say, when I was 9 years old, my mom and I made a Hershey Kiss piñata, right? We made it out of paper mache and tin foil. We didn't know this was going to happen, but the tin foil made it very hard to break open. That was like a unique surprise, I guess. Or maybe rather than just say paper mache and tinfoil and wrapped it in tinfoil would probably be more accurate. Finally, broke it open and candy rained from the sky. Right? So these are the 4 details. I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't know what's going to pop up, but we'll give it a whirl. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on this button in the top right that says Generate Draft. And so what it's doing is actually going to go use a large language model. Right now it is using, I think, a version of ChatGPT where it's going to send that information in and it's going to provide a rough draft for me to react to. Now that I've sent the information over, I get this story right here, this rough draft that I can react to. So it says, when I was 9 years old, my mom and I decided to make a Hershey Kiss piñata. We spent hours creating it out of paper mache and wrapping it in shiny tinfoil. The piñata was so sturdy that we were worried we wouldn't be able to crack it open, but we were determined to enjoy our hard work and fill it with our favorite candy. Finally, the day arrived when we would break open the piñata. We gathered all of our friends in the backyard and took turns hitting it with a bat. It was tough and took some time, but eventually it burst open and candy rained from the sky. We all scrambled to grab as much candy as we could, laughing and shouting with joy. It's one of the happiest moments of my childhood, and the memory still brings a smile to my face. The Hershey Kiss piñata had brought us all together, and we had a blast celebrating our victory over it. It was a simple but magical moment I always cherish.
Aww.
So this is pretty close. I probably should have mentioned in the prompt that it was for a birthday party, right? I can add that in now, or I could go back and regenerate the story, but it was for my 9th birthday party.
Okay.
In large part, this is accurate. It did take us quite a while. Paper mache is not a short process. And we did have a hard time getting it open. That tinfoil, even with a baseball bat, took a little while to kind of get through. And I love the fact that my mom took the time to do that with me. It is a cherished memory for me. So I would then put something like a title, the Hershey Kiss piñata. I would maybe say, my mom and I decided to make a Hershey Kiss piñata for my birthday party.
And so how are you making these changes? Are you just clicking in something?
Yeah. So I just click here in the box wherever
Mhm.
I want, like a word processor, and I'm able to add any changes that I want. And you can see as I'm doing this up here, it's auto saving the changes. So I don't have to worry about losing my story or having something forgotten, right?
Great.
I can actually come over here and let's say I have a picture. I didn't have one exactly, but I did find one that was fairly close to what we had put together. So I have here a giant Hershey kiss. We had a little cardboard circle that we had used on the bottom and wrapped it up. So it looked
Mhm.
very similar to this. So now I have a story here. It was while I lived in it was in Littleton, Colorado. So I
Okay.
can add that information here. And it was on my birthday, August 1st, 1989, because I was 9 years old. And
Okay.
so what I can do at this point, I could, if I had a second photo, I could go ahead and do that. There's a couple different photo formats.
Mhm.
But once I'm comfortable with it, I can proceed on and put a couple people in this story from my tree. So, my mom, I can add myself. Those are the two people that are really mentioned here in this story.
Okay.
And then for me, this is a memory of something that my mom and I did together. Now, once we get to this point, I can choose who gets access to this story,
Okay.
right? So, and we should probably talk a little bit about this because
Yes,
prior
please.
to this, I created a group that just has my family members. I have a group that has my wife's family members. I can publish it to members of on the Storied platform, but really only people that follow me will get access to that story, even when it's public. Or I can keep it private. Maybe this is just more like a journal event, and I want to keep that private and explicitly share it with just a couple people.
Okay.
So as the storyteller, I'm in control of who gets to see this story and how that happens. So in this case, I would share it with my family probably. I'm fine. I have a couple friends that are following me on Storied, and so I'm fine leaving this as public. It will obscure any of the names or the birth dates of the living people, so we don't have to worry about that like other sites, right? And then I could come here and publish this story. And so once I've done that, the story will pop up in a couple different places for me.
Okay.
So this is my personal story area with all the different stories I've written. You can see there's 126 stories, but 25 are still in a draft state. Some of these I've used StoryAssist to create, and others I've just captured my own memories or memories from clips from books that I read about my ancestors. I also see it in my group feed. So this is the private area that my family has called Camp Feed. And here I have 27 family members that will have this pop up in the group feed. So they'll be able to see that I published a story about this when I was 8 years old. Now, I could have included it in my in-laws. I think they care maybe a little less about my childhood memories and more about my children. So
Mhm.
that's kind of my rule of thumb. Although I could get chastised, I guess I did tell one story that they wanted to get access to. And also in my home screen, I have a personal feed that will aggregate anyone that I'm following plus group stories. And so here is the third place that I would come to potentially see that story. And so there's a variety of places that people can kind of get access to what's been written.
Wow, that's such a great demo. I just want to get some clarifying things as we go along. So,
Okay.
you said you access this from your home screen. So, if we were just coming to storage for the very first time, how would we get to here?
Yeah. So what would happen is you create an account, and maybe we can actually just go through that process if you
Yes,
want.
please.
So I'm going to join for free, create a free account. We'll just put in an email address here, I guess. We do ask a couple questions to help customize the experience for people so that we can make sure that they're getting what they want out of the site, right? This is anonymous data, but it does help us make sure that the experience that they have. I'm here to capture stories, memories, and photos and get my family to engage with that content. Okay, so this is the first time homepage experience, right? Obviously, an offer to kind of get started if
Mhm.
you want to be researching historical content. But if not, those stories that were maybe I'm not interested in an offer right now, right? I can start a tree or upload an existing GEDCOM.
Okay.
Will help kick off the hints engine and help start discovering content. It also allows me then to start sharing some stories.
So,
Um,
that goes back to how you were able to link the one story you made to yourself and to your mother,
Yeah, a
correct?
little bit, yeah, because I'd already
Okay.
created a tree. So in this experience, maybe I'm the home person, right? And it'll start to create my tree.
Okay.
Now we are working on a wizard essentially that will come walk people through the steps.
Okay.
Will be released here pretty soon, but for right now, we would add my mom, right? So mom's been added. So yeah, at this point, if I were to go tell any stories, right,
Gotcha.
I get that StoryAssist modal, and then it would pre-pop my mom's name. Now, truth be told, I can actually tell a story about anyone.
Okay.
Right? So a different example, I guess, would be we can go into StoryAssist. It's a happy memory. This is my best friend, Brian. We lived together in Parker, Colorado. We loved to jump on the trampoline. We played baseball in the cul-de-sac during the summers. We had epic all-nighters playing video games. And then one more interesting detail, I guess, he was from Brazil.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and have this generate a happy story or memory for me. Now, Brian isn't in my family tree, right? But I think there are a lot of stories that we would tell about ourselves and our ancestors that have meaningful people in our lives. And Brian was that for me. For 4 years, we lived next door to each other. And a lot of the interest and the experience that I have, I can attribute to the time that we spent together. And we've stayed in touch throughout the years. So even though he's not in my family tree, there's a way on Storied for me to actually kind of graft him into my tree or tie him in, right? So my best friend Brian is one of the most amazing people I've ever met. We lived in Parker, Colorado, and had some of the most amazing adventures, right? So it goes through and talks about some of the different things: ordering pizza, drinking soda, staying up to the sunrise. That totally happened, right?
It totally happened, but you didn't put that in there.
I didn't. No, it kind of filled in some gaps for me, right? We didn't eat a ton of Brazilian dishes together, so I would probably take that out, right? And so this whole paragraph actually maybe doesn't make a lot of sense. And so I would maybe take that out. I have a picture of Brian. I don't have it readily available, but I could easily pull that in, or maybe I'm not ready to do that, right? My best friend, Brian. Location, we've already said, is Parker, Colorado. Year, this would have been 1991-ish. So I can move forward. And then here, I'm in the story, right? So I want to tag the story to me. You'll see my list is a lot shorter because I don't have a ton of people. But now I can type Olivera. I can add Brian here. Now it's going to recognize, well, Brian's not in your tree and not in your account. So who should he be connected to? Well, he's connected to me. And our relationship is friend, right? So I can go next. I don't remember Brian's birthday. I'm probably a bad friend. He is living, so I leave that check so that it'll obscure that information for other people. But at this point, I've created a relationship or a connection between Brian and I. And so not only is he in the story, if I were to share the story with Brian and he were to join Storied, at some point in time, we would be able to connect that. And he would be able to add that story to his experience. And his kids or grandkids at some point in the future could potentially make that discovery because that connection exists. We're here on Storied. I'm going to go next. I'm going to, for right now, make this story private, I guess. And you're going to see that this now is in the account, but I can also come in here and go to my tree, go to myself. We'll hop into my profile. And there's this relationships tab where you can see I've created a new non-family relationship that is attached to me in this tree. And so you can see there's lots of different kinds of relationships that you could put and incorporate. And we even have this cool little visual. It's not maybe super helpful yet, but it's the beginnings of a way to visualize a tree in a different way, where we can take the graph underlying and you'll start to see family relationships will be green, my spouse and children will be red, and I have these other relationships that will show up in different colors and dots. I've showed you on the small tree, but I want to show you what that actually looks like for a tree that's been filled out, right? So we'll come over here to my tree. A lot more people in this tree than in the demo tree, right? So I'll come over here and I'll go to my profile, gonna hop on relationships. And you can see here I have coworkers and friends and different people that I've connected in, even some pets that are important to me. And so I can come in here to this relationship viewer and you'll get a better sense for what this looks like. Now, there are more people in this tree, so the visualization is a little slow right now. You'll see this is an experimental feature that we're really trying to work on, and that will increase in value over time.
That's the nature of new technology, is it not? You start with a concept and then you expand it out. So that's
No,
all right.
that's exactly right. But it gets kind of fun here when it loads,
Yeah.
because you'll be able to see how all of these different people connect to one another. And essentially what we do is we'll look at yourself, and then we'll take kind of 2 hops
Oh,
away.
wow.
Yeah, you'll
It's
see.
moving.
Yeah, it's kind of settling in here. It is kind of fun that way. But what you'll see here is I'm this. I'll zoom in a smidge. I'm this center dot right here. And so you can see with a fuller tree what that looks like. These are different coworkers and friends. You'll see Dixie here. It's one of my dogs. We also have Drift. So they're brown because they're my pets. You'll see parents and siblings and then their kids as extended family. And so just a different way to think about a tree, because with the different relationship types that you can put in, it doesn't naturally fit into a hierarchical structure.
Mm-hmm.
We do have that family tree because everyone fits that model, but there are very different ways to think about ancestry and family history. And we feel like we're kind of on the cusp of, okay, we've done a lot within the family confines. How do we break out of that and handle things like adoption or other kinds of relationships that may exist that don't fit the natural blood relationship types?
Yeah, that's really, really neat. All right, so I have some follow-up questions, and a couple of them are, during one of the demos that Story put out, they talked about how easy it is to come up with stories. We all have tons of stories. Well, coming up with a story idea is a real struggle for me sometimes.
Yeah.
But once I have an idea, I can get going. And it seems like with the Story Assist tool, that would help me even further. So, how do you help people who are like me? They're like, I don't know what story to start with. Do you have a tool? Do you have some suggestions?
Yeah, so there's a couple things that we have that would help. So one of the things that we do with our social feeds is we actually put out story prompts. So if you follow Storied on Facebook or on Instagram or any of those platforms, we are pushing some of those story ideas out. Also, when you first create an account, if we go back to that test account, so if I go back to my home screen, I can see there's the opportunity to search. One of the things that we've done is you could choose to follow featured stories. And so if I click on this featured story link, what it will do is it actually provide some example stories for me that other people have written and have agreed to make featured on the site, right? And so here I could see, here's an example of maybe an older story. This is about an ancestor, clearly. You can take a newspaper clipping. So I was like, oh, maybe I should go look and search for newspapers to see what I can find. Someone told a story about birthday present. And so by going through this feed here, you could actually get ideas that way.
Okay, yeah. You would just go where to, oh, I like this idea. Where am I going?
Yeah,
I'm going to click on,
come
there
up
you
here and
go.
tell a story, or come over here to my stories.
Okay, perfect.
Another widget that we're working on is a story starter. You can get a preview of that once I get past this, a couple of these modals. Never mind. I guess we took it out because I already told a story. Bummer. I was excited to show it to you.
Okay.
We have a widget that pops up for some people as well that actually has real prompts that you can kind of transition through.
Okay.
That will show you different story ideas. We're working on making it more persistent here on the side.
Okay.
So that's a to come for feature, but it will be an opportunity to provide other ideas. I will say there's a couple things that I do that I find have been very helpful.
Okay.
A lot of times if I find a picture on my Facebook feed or on my phone, that provides enough of a memory for me that I'm like, oh, there's a story associated with this. And so using an image, an heirloom, or an artifact as a story prompt can really get things going for me. The other thing that happens is I've been telling my kids stories as I've started to write some of these out, and they'll say, well, tell me a story about when you were 8 years old. Well, even that can be enough of a prompt for me to think back, okay, well, when I was 8, what was I going through? And just having that small thing can help. And then once again, with StoryAssist, maybe I don't know exactly how I want to capture it all, but I can remember 2 or 3 details about that. And that's enough to get that StoryAssist engine going and get a rough draft started.
Okay, so I have 2 more questions. The first one is, I never put anything into a platform that I can't get out. So, do you have any features where we can take the stories out and create some kind of project or send them to Family Search or something in that way? What do you have or what are you working on?
Yeah. So really good question. We're working on a couple things,
Okay.
right? I can't give tons of details, but we are working to partner with Family Search, and that's something that we hope to have out here pretty quick.
Okay.
The other thing that we're working on is a book printing option, so you'll be able
Okay.
to take these stories and
Yes.
actually compile them into a book and print those out. So both of
Okay.
those are kind of in the works right now, and excited to kind of see where we can take that.
Okay, so my number one vote is the printed book first and Family Search second. So if I had my ruthers, that's what I would say because
Yeah, me
books
too.
books are become bedtime stories. My kids are still pulling books off the shelves that I made years ago, and they're like, "You're a little behind." Like, yeah, I
Yeah,
started this YouTube channel, so I'm behind.
yeah, no, it's the exact same. I think I will probably be the first purchaser of books once we have them because like I said, I go up every night and read to my kids, and if they could have a tangible artifact
Right.
that they can actually go through with pictures and
Yeah.
some of these stories, I think it would be really valuable. So
For sure, for sure. And so we still have kids at home, and this would be great for grandkids or nieces and nephews, grandnieces and nephews, even for people who don't have children of their own. They probably have nieces and nephews who want to hear the stories of their loved ones. Where do we stay up to date on getting help or learning about new features? Tell us where to go from here.
yeah, so there's a couple things. Obviously, create an account, and once you do that, we do have a newsletter that goes out once a month that will keep you up to date with new features that are releasing and what's going on. I mentioned our social platform, and so we have major accounts on all of the social platforms that you can go and follow Storied and see what's going on as well. We're trying to keep people informed through those mechanisms.
That sounds great. Well, Brandon, I'm super excited, and I hope that people will leave comments in the comments section of this video for you to come follow up with. But I really enjoyed this feature. The Story Assist feature is one among many available from Storied. Storied offers tree building, core research set research, and story writing at an affordable price. Check out the link in the description for how to access this new genealogy website. If you want to learn how to write longer family stories, be sure to check out this playlist on how to draft your family history.